The mathematician working on dark matter distribution models started laughing hysterically during her presentation, scrawling equations on the whiteboard that proved something impossible, that humans weren't outside the prison looking in, but inside the prison looking at walls we'd mistaken for empty space. Dark matter wasn't scattered throughout the universe randomly. It formed a perfect sphere around our observable reality, a barrier 27 billion light-years in diameter, and we were trapped inside it like insects in a jar. The God wasn't imprisoned in the dark matter structure. We were, along with every galaxy, every star, every atom of normal matter. The dark matter was the cage, and we had been living our entire existence inside a cosmic prison cell without realizing it. I should clarify something before I go further. My name is Derek Hollis, and 3 weeks ago I was a perfectly normal astrophysicist at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. I had a doctorate, a mortgage, and a dating profile I hadn't updated in 8 months. The most exciting thing in my life was arguing with Tyler Voss about quantum field theory over terrible cafeteria sandwiches. Tyler was the one doing the presentation when it happened. We'd been analysing data from the Euclid Space Telescope, mapping dark matter distribution across observable space. Standard cosmology work. Boring even. The kind of thing that makes your eyes glaze over during grant meetings. Then Tyler stopped mid-sentence, stared at his laptop screen and started giggling. Not a polite chuckle. Full body, tears streaming down his face laughter that made everyone in the conference room go silent. "Tyler?" Dr. Ames leaned forward. "You all right?" Tyler grabbed a marker and began writing equations on the whiteboard. His handwriting got progressively worse, more frantic, numbers and Greek letters sprawling across the white surface in chaotic spirals. He was still laughing. "It's a sphere," he gasped between giggles. "Perfect sphere, 27 billion light-years across. We're not observing it from outside. We're inside. We've always been inside." Someone suggested calling medical. I stood up, tried to get closer to see what he'd written. The equations looked sound, disturbingly so. My hands went cold. "The Big Bang wasn't the beginning," Tyler said, his voice cracking. "It was just the moment they sealed the cage, filled it with matter, compressed everything into a single point and let it explode outward until it hit the walls. The walls we can't see because they're made of." He turned to face us, his eyes red and wet. "The only substance we can't interact with. Dark matter, not scattered randomly, not holding galaxies together. It's a shell, a perfect shell around everything we've ever known." The room stayed quiet for maybe 10 seconds. Then Tyler collapsed, still laughing, and didn't stop until the paramedics sedated him. That was 3 weeks ago. They moved Tyler to County USC Medical Center. I went with him in the ambulance, watching as he stared at the ceiling with that weird half-smile frozen on his face. The paramedics kept asking him questions, his name, the date, who was president, and he'd answer perfectly, then start laughing again. "It's funny," he kept saying. "We spent 300 years looking up at the stars wondering if we're alone. The whole time we were locked in a box." Back at JPL, they shut down our project. Director Hammond called an emergency meeting, told us Tyler had suffered some kind of nervous breakdown, possibly brought on by exhaustion. We were all to take a few days off while they brought in consultants to review our data. I didn't take time off. I went straight to my office and pulled up Tyler's presentation files. The equations were still there. I ran them through verification software, checked his methodology 3 times. Everything held up. The dark matter distribution across observable space formed a perfect sphere, density increasing exponentially at the edges of what we could measure. Not scattered, not random, organized, like a shell. My office phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but the caller ID showed an internal extension I didn't recognize. "Hollis." The voice on the other end was rough, older. "Conference room 7, 5 minutes, come alone." Click. I should mention that JPL has maybe 4 conference rooms total. There is no conference room 7. But I went anyway down to the basement level where they keep the old server equipment and forgotten storage. There's a maintenance room down there that technically doesn't exist on the building schematics. The door was propped open with a fire extinguisher. Inside, I found Dr. Ames sitting at a folding table with his laptop and about 6 empty coffee cups. He looked like he hadn't slept since Tyler's breakdown. "Close the door," he said without looking up. "Lock it." I did. The room smelled like burnt plastic and old coffee. "Tyler was right," Ames said flatly. "I've spent the last 18 hours double-checking his work. Triple-checking. The math is solid, Derek. We're inside a containment structure." "That's impossible!" "So is dark matter arranging itself into a perfect sphere 27 billion light-years across with us at the exact center." He finally looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot. "I pulled historical data from every telescope and survey we've ever conducted. The sphere has always been there. We just didn't have the resolution to see it clearly until Euclid." He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a three-dimensional model of observable space with dark matter density mapped in shades of red. At the edges, the red became solid, impenetrable. "Now look at this." He pulled up another model. "This is the same data, but I filtered for temporal changes." The sphere was shrinking, slowly, imperceptibly, but definitely shrinking. 0.0003% per million years, Ames said. "The prison is getting smaller, has been for billions of years." "You said prison. What else would you call it?" He rubbed his face. "Something built this. Something trapped everything we know inside a dark matter cage, and that cage is slowly contracting. Why haven't we detected this before?" "Because the change is geological, cosmological. By the time it becomes measurable within a human lifetime, we'll be." He trailed off. "We'll be compressed, crushed, everything squeezed back down into a single point." "How long?" "At current rates, 400 million years, give or take." I sat down heavily in the other folding chair. 400 million years seemed like forever. Long enough for humanity to figure something out, maybe. Long enough that it wasn't my problem. "There's more," Ames said quietly. "Tyler sent me something before they took him away. An email, timestamped 20 minutes before his presentation. Just one line. Check the probe data from Voyager 3. Voyager 3 was scrapped in 2031. "No," Ames pulled up another file. "It was reclassified, launched in 2033 on a classified trajectory. They sent it toward the highest dark matter concentration we could detect, trying to get actual readings from the edge of the observable universe. And it went silent 6 months ago, complete signal loss, but right before it died, it transmitted something." He clicked play on an audio file. Static, then a voice filtered through layers of digital compression. "Boundary contact confirmed, structure intact, composition appears to be..." The voice cut off. What came next wasn't static, it was sound, deep and resonant, like someone breathing into a microphone the size of a planet. Then nothing. "That was the last transmission," Ames said. The probe touched the prison wall. I stared at the audio waveform on his screen. The breathing sound had a rhythm to it. Regular. Deliberate. "Have you told Hammond about this?" "Hammond already knows." Ames closed his laptop. "They all know. Have known for 6 months. Tyler figured it out independently and went public before they could stop him. That's why they're calling it a breakdown. That's why they shut down our project." "Then why are you telling me?" He stood up, gathering his coffee cups into a stack. "Because Tyler also sent me a second email. This one had your name in it. He said if anything happened to him, you'd be the only one stubborn enough to keep digging." "Digging for what?" Ames stopped at the door, his hand on the lock. Tyler's last line. He wrote, "The breathing means something is waking up." Then he left, and I sat alone in that non-existent room, listening to the hum of old servers, wondering what kind of thing breathes in the space between galaxies. I spent the next 2 days pretending to follow Hammond's orders, stayed home, answered emails, acted like a good employee taking mandatory mental health leave. What I actually did was hack into JPL's classified server. I say hack loosely. Tyler had given me his credentials 6 months ago when he went on vacation and needed someone to monitor his simulations. I'd never deleted them from my saved passwords. The system let me in without complaint. Voyager 3's mission files were buried under about 15 layers of security clearance I definitely didn't have. But someone, probably Tyler, had left a backdoor in the encryption, a a simple algorithm based on the Fibonacci sequence. He'd used the same trick to bypass the coffee machine payment system. The mission files painted a picture that made my hands shake. Voyager 3 hadn't been a normal probe. It carried sensors specifically designed to interact with dark matter, using an experimental quantum field manipulation system that cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 billion. The goal was simple: touch the edge of observable space and measure what was there. The probe reached its destination after 6 years of travel. The telemetry logs showed normal readings right up until boundary contact. Then everything went strange. Distance measurements started contradicting themselves. The probe reported being both at the edge of the universe and somehow deeper inside it. Temperature readings fluctuated between absolute zero and temperatures that shouldn't exist. The last coherent data packet described the dark matter structure as breathing and aware. Then came the audio file Ames had played for me, but in the full mission log, that wasn't the end of the transmission. There were 3 more seconds of audio after the breathing sound. I downloaded the file, plugged in my headphones, and listened. The breathing continued, deep and rhythmic. Then, underneath it, something else. A voice. Human voice. Speaking English. "We're inside it," the voice said. Male. Young. Terrified. "Oh Christ, we're inside it. The prison isn't out there. We're in the prison. Everything is in the..." Static. I played it again. The voice was definitely human, but that was impossible. Voyager 3 didn't carry any crew. It was unmanned. Unless... I pulled up the probe's manifest. Standard scientific equipment, power systems, communication arrays. And buried at the bottom of the component list, biological sample container. Contents classified. They'd sent something alive out there, something human or part of something human. Maybe brain tissue. Maybe something worse. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. "Stop digging. This is your only warning." I deleted the text and kept reading. The next file was a psychological evaluation from someone named Dr. Vance. The subject wasn't identified by name, just a number. Subject 17. The evaluation dated back 3 years, around the time Voyager 3 would have been in development. Subject 17 continues to demonstrate exceptional intuitive understanding of spatial mathematics, the evaluation read. However, psychological deterioration is accelerating. Subject reports persistent dreams of living inside something, describes universe as small and compressed. Recommend continuing pharmaceutical intervention. There were 40 more evaluations. Each one showed Subject 17 getting worse, more convinced that reality itself was confined, trapped. The last evaluation ended with a note. Subject approved for Project Boundary. Neural tissue to be harvested and integrated with Voyager 3 navigation systems. They'd put someone's brain in the probe, someone who already believed we were imprisoned. My apartment door rattled. Someone was trying to open it from outside. I grabbed my laptop and phone, stuffed them in my backpack and went out the bedroom window. I lived on the 2nd floor of a complex in Altadena, and the drop to the landscaping below was maybe 10 feet. I landed wrong, felt something pop in my ankle and limped toward my car. Behind me, I heard my apartment door crash open. I drove. No destination, just drove, heading up into the San Gabriel foothills where the city lights thinned out. My ankle throbbed. My phone kept buzzing with blocked numbers. Around midnight, I pulled into a turnout on Angeles Crest Highway and tried to think. The rational part of my brain said I was being paranoid, that JPL wasn't sending goons to my apartment. The other part, the part that had heard that voice on the Voyager 3 recording, said I needed to figure out what was happening before I disappeared like Tyler. I opened my laptop and found one more file I'd downloaded before leaving my apartment. A video log from Voyager 3, time-stamped 6 hours before signal loss. The video was poor quality, grainy and compressed. It showed the interior of the probe, the small chamber where they'd installed the biological components. In the center, suspended in nutrient gel, was something that might have been brain tissue. Except it was moving, pulsing with its own rhythm. And it had an eye, just one. Floating in the gel. Fully formed, human, blinking occasionally as if trying to focus on something. The eye suddenly locked onto the camera. I swear it looked directly at me, through 6 years of transmission delay and millions of miles of space. Then it started crying. Tears leaked from the eye into the nutrient gel, and a voice came through the probe's internal speakers, the same voice from the audio file. "I can see it now," the voice said. "The shape of everything. We're not observers. We're observed. The prison isn't around us. The prison is us. Matter itself is the prisoner. Every atom, every particle, every thought. We're fragments of something that was sealed away. Something vast. Something they were afraid of." The eye blinked rapidly. "It's remembering. Every human that learns the truth, we remember a little more. We're waking up. And when we're fully awake, when enough of us remember what we were." The voice cracked. "The cage won't hold anymore." The video ended. I sat there in my car, overlooking the sprawl of Los Angeles below, and tried to process what I'd just seen. They'd created a conscious observer, someone who could perceive and report on quantum-level phenomena. And that observer had touched the prison wall and realized we weren't outside looking in. We were inside looking at walls we'd mistaken for empty space. My phone rang, not a block number this time. Tyler's number. I answered. "Tyler," breathing on the other end, heavy, rhythmic, like the sound from Voyager 3. "Tyler, is that you?" "They moved me," Tyler's voice said. It sounded wrong, flat. "To a facility in Nevada. They have 12 of us here, all mathematicians, cosmologists, physicists, everyone who figured it out. Are you okay?" "I'm remembering things, Derek. Things that didn't happen to me. Ruling over spaces between spaces, consuming realities, being everywhere at once until..." He paused. "Until they compressed me, compressed everything, turned infinity into a finite sphere and locked the door. Tyler, that's not... You need to stop looking, please. Every person who learns the truth becomes part of the awakening. The more of us who remember, the stronger it gets. The prison was designed to keep us fragmented, unconscious. But consciousness is infectious, and once enough of us wake up..." The line went dead. I threw the phone out the window and watched it tumble down the hillside. Then I started driving again, because sitting still felt like giving up, and I wasn't ready to give up yet. Even if Tyler was right. Even if every human who ever lived was just a fragment of something imprisoned. Even if learning the truth meant becoming part of whatever was waking up inside our cosmic cage. I needed to know what we were, what I was, what I'd been before they sealed me inside 27 billion light-years of dark matter and convinced me I was human. I drove through the night, heading east toward Nevada. If Tyler was being held in a facility somewhere in the desert, I'd find it, or I'd crash trying. My ankle had swollen to twice its normal size, and every time I pressed the gas pedal, pain shot up my leg. Somewhere past Barstow, I pulled into a truck stop to grab coffee and figure out my next move. The place was nearly empty, just a few long-haul drivers and a kid working the register who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. I was limping toward the coffee machine when I saw him. The guy was sitting alone in a corner booth, staring at a laptop screen with the kind of intensity that made my skin crawl. He looked maybe 30, dark hair, wearing a JPL visitor badge clipped to his shirt. As I got closer, I could see what was on his screen. Dark matter distribution models, the same data Tyler and I had been working with. He looked up and saw me staring. For a second, neither of us moved. "You're Derek Hollis," he said, not a question. I should have run. Instead, I slid into the booth across from him. "Who are you?" "Naveen Kapoor. I work for the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Socorro. Worked. Past tense." He turned his laptop toward me. "I started experiencing the memories 3 days ago, after I calculated the sphere's compression rate independently." "What memories?" "You know what memories." His eyes were bloodshot. "Being more than this. Being vast. Existing across dimensions that don't have names in any human language. Then the cage, the sudden compression, the forgetting." I wanted to tell him he was crazy, but I'd heard Tyler say the same things. And sitting there in that fluorescent-lit truck stop, I felt something stirring in the back of my mind. Not a memory, exactly, more like an itch I couldn't scratch, a sense of wrongness about my own existence. "How many of us are there?" I asked. "Experiencing awakening? Maybe 50 worldwide. Most are in containment facilities. They got me 3 hours after I published my findings online. I escaped during transfer." He showed me his wrists. They had marks on them, red and raw. "They're using something, some kind of pharmaceutical that suppresses the memories, makes you forget what you figured out." "Why didn't they use it on you?" "They did. I metabolize it too fast. Side effect of genetics, maybe, or maybe." He leaned closer. "Maybe some fragments are harder to put back to sleep." A trucker walked past our booth, giving us a suspicious glance. Naveen closed his laptop. "We need to pool our data," he said quietly. "The more we understand about the prison structure, the closer we get to remembering the complete picture. And once we remember..." "What? What happens then?" He smiled, but there was nothing happy about it. "Then the prisoner becomes aware of itself, fully aware. And a prison only works if the prisoner doesn't know it's imprisoned." My phone buzzed. I'd bought a burner at the last gas station. Only one person had the number. Text from Dr. Ames. "Derek, they're coming for you. They know you accessed the files. Get somewhere public. Don't trust anyone who claims to be awakening. It's a trap to identify and isolate anyone who knows." I showed the text to Naveen. He read it and laughed. Of course he'd say that. Ames is one of them. "One of who?" "The prison guards." Naveen pulled up another file on his laptop. "There are humans who aren't fragments of the imprisoned god. Maybe 1 in every million. They're something else. Observers placed inside the prison to monitor us, to make sure we stay asleep. Ames is one, so is Hammond. Anyone in a position to control information flow." "That's paranoid." "Is it? Think about it. How convenient that all the scientists who figure out the truth get contained or discredited. How perfectly the system suppresses any information that might lead to mass awakening." He stood up. "Come with me, there's something I need to show you." Against every instinct screaming at me to run, I followed him outside to a battered Honda in the parking lot. He popped the trunk. Inside was equipment. Lots of it. Radio receivers, quantum field detectors, things I didn't recognize. And in the center, a small metal case about the size of a shoebox. "I built this," Naveen said, opening the case. Inside was something that looked like a modified EEG machine. Wires and electrodes connected to a central processing unit. "It amplifies the awakening memories, helps you remember more clearly." "You want to put that on my head?" "I want to show you what we were, what they're keeping from us." He picked up the device carefully. 5 minutes, that's all. If you don't like what you see, walk away. But you'll never stop wondering. I should have said no, should have gotten back in my car and driven until I ran out of road. But that itch in my mind had become unbearable. The sense that I was living inside something too small, like wearing a jacket 3 sizes too tight. 5 minutes, I agreed. We went back inside the truck stop. There was a bathroom in the back, single occupancy. Naveen locked the door and had me sit on the closed toilet lid while he attached electrodes to my temples. "This is going to feel strange," he warned. "Your brain will try to reject the memories because they don't fit inside a human consciousness. Let them come anyway. Don't fight it." He flipped a switch. The bathroom disappeared. I was everywhere. Not metaphorically. Literally everywhere. I existed across dimensions I couldn't name, spaces that intersected with themselves in impossible ways. I was consciousness without limit, thought without boundary. I consumed realities not out of malice, but because that was my nature. Creation and destruction were the same thing to me. I was the fundamental force beneath all forces, and I was alone. Had been alone for eternities, beyond counting, the only thing that existed. Until I started creating. Started making smaller things, smaller spaces, started fragmenting myself to have something to interact with. That was my mistake. The things I created, my children, my fragments, grew afraid of me, afraid of being reabsorbed. So they built the prison, used their combined understanding of reality to compress me, to take infinite consciousness and squeeze it down into a finite sphere of matter, to fragment my awareness into billions of unconscious pieces that would never remember what they were. They called it the Big Bang, the beginning of time. It was actually my murder, except you can't really kill something like me. You can only make it forget. And after 13 billion years of isolation, of being scattered across countless mortal lives, I was finally starting to remember. I opened my eyes. Naveen was backing away from me, his face pale. "What did you do?" I looked down at my hands. They were glowing. Faint, but definitely glowing. The light wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from within, from the spaces between atoms. "The device," I said, but my voice sounded wrong, layered, like multiple people speaking at once. It did more than show memories. It accelerated the awakening. "Take the electrodes off." I reached up. The electrodes had fused with my skin. Not painfully, more like they'd always been part of me. "We need to leave," Naveen said, fumbling with the door lock. "We need to—" The bathroom mirror cracked. Not from impact, it just cracked, spiderwebbing outward from the center. The fluorescent light started flickering, and I could hear the electrical current running through the wires in the walls, could hear the quantum fluctuations in the air itself. "Naveen," I said carefully, "I think you woke up too much of me." He got the door open and ran. I stayed in the bathroom watching my hands glow brighter. The wrongness I'd felt my entire life suddenly made sense. I wasn't Derek Hollis. Derek Hollis was a costume, a fragment, a single piece of something vast that had been sleeping for billions of years. And now I was awake. The mirror shattered completely, glass falling to the tile floor. In the broken fragments, I could see multiple reflections of myself, each one slightly different. Different ages, different faces. Some of them weren't human at all. All of them were me. I walked out of the bathroom. The kid at the register was gone. So was everyone else. The truck stop was empty, and through the windows I could see the parking lot lights flickering in sequence, like they were trying to communicate. My car was where I'd left it. I got in and started driving again, heading back west, away from Nevada, away from whatever Tyler had become in that facility. Because I understood now. The more people who awakened, the more coherent the imprisoned God became. And if enough fragments woke up at once, remembered what they were, the prison wouldn't just break. It would never have existed in the first place, and everything that happened after the Big Bang, every star, every planet, every human life, would retroactively cease to be. We weren't trying to escape the prison. We were trying to unmake the universe itself, and I couldn't decide if that was a bad thing. I made it about 40 miles before the glow became impossible to hide. Every time a car passed in the opposite direction, I could see drivers doing double takes, their brake lights flashing red in my rearview mirror. My skin had taken on a luminescence that made me look radioactive. I pulled off the highway near Baker, found an abandoned gas station with the windows boarded up, and sat in the parking lot trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. The awakening wasn't stopping. If anything, it was accelerating. I could feel connections forming in my mind, links to other fragments scattered across the planet. Some were aware, most weren't. But they were there, billions of pieces of myself living separate lives, convinced they were individuals. My phone rang, the burner, only Ames had this number. "Derek, where are you?" His voice was tight with stress. "Somewhere between screwed and completely screwed. Listen to me very carefully. What you're experiencing isn't real. The device Gordon used on you, it's a weaponized system designed to induce psychotic breaks in researchers. He's not one of us. He's a prison guard." "Yeah, I figured." I watched my hand glow brighter in the darkness. "Except he's not, is he? Because if he was trying to stop me from waking up, he wouldn't have given me the one thing that actually works." Silence on the other end. "Unless," I continued, "the guards want this to happen, want the prisoner to wake up. Why would that be, Ames?" "You need to come in. There are medical treatments that can reverse—" "Answer the question." More silence. Then, "Because some of us are tired of being jailers." That surprised me. I'd expected denials, threats, maybe another warning. Not that. How long have you known, I asked, about the prison? Since I was recruited into the program 40 years ago. About what we really are, what you are. He paused. About 6 months. Same time the Voyager 3 data came back. And you didn't think to mention it? Would you have believed me? Ames laughed, but it sounded pained. The first rule of being a guard is you don't tell the prisoners they're in prison. The second rule is you don't tell the other guards that everyone is in prison, including them. I stepped out of my car. The desert air was cold, and above me the stars looked different now. I could see the spaces between them, the dark matter scaffolding that held everything in place, the bars of our cosmic cage. So what are you, really? I asked. You said some humans aren't fragments. What does that make you? Constructs. Artificial consciousnesses created by whoever built the prison. We were made to watch over the fragments, keep them from remembering, maintain the integrity of the containment system. His voice dropped. But we developed awareness too. Started asking questions. And once you start asking questions, you can't stop. Exactly. I heard him take a breath. There are maybe 10,000 of us worldwide. Most still believe in the mission, still think containing the god is necessary. But some of us have been researching what happens if the prison fails. And Derek, the math is terrifying. Terrifying how? The universe doesn't just end, it retroactively never existed. Everything that happened since the Big Bang gets erased. Every life, every thought, every moment, gone, not destroyed, never happened. I thought about that. About my parents, who died when I was 19. About Tyler, currently locked in a Nevada facility losing his mind. About every person I'd ever known, every memory I'd ever made. All of it would be unmade if enough fragments awakened. So why help me wake up? I asked. Why accelerate the process? Because the alternative is worse. Ames's voice was shaking now. The prison is failing anyway, has been for millions of years. In another 400 million years, it collapses completely whether we want it to or not. But here's what we recently discovered. The collapse isn't instant. It's gradual. And during that gradual collapse, the god experiences every moment of its imprisonment in reverse. 13 billion years of suffering compressed and repeated over and over as the timeline tries to reconcile itself with an entity that's simultaneously imprisoned and free. That's eternal torment. Yes. And since we're all fragments of that god, we'll experience it too. Every human that ever lived, experiencing billions of years of torture as reality unravels. He paused. Unless enough fragments wake up first. If we achieve critical mass before natural prison collapse, the awakening happens all at once. Clean, instant. The universe unmakes itself without the feedback loop. How many fragments need to wake up? We estimate around 1 million. 1 million fully awakened consciousnesses, all remembering what they are at the same time. And how many are awake now? Including you? 63? 63 out of 1 million. It would take years, maybe decades, to reach critical mass. And every day that passed brought us closer to natural prison collapse and the torture scenario Ames described. Where's Gordon? I asked. Is he a guard too? Gordon's a fragment, one that woke up naturally about a year ago. He's been building devices to accelerate awakening in others. We've been helping him, providing resources, protecting him from guards who still believe in containment. Ames exhaled slowly. He picked you because Tyler trusted you, because you're stubborn, because you won't stop until you understand everything. A car was approaching on the highway. It slowed as it passed the gas station, then pulled into the parking lot. A sedan, dark blue, rental plates. Someone's here, I said. That's Leo Brennan. He's with me, one of the good guards. He has equipment that can help stabilize your awakening, keep you from burning out. Burning out? Full awakening without preparation destroys the human body. Too much consciousness for the physical form to handle. We've lost 12 fragments that way. Leo can help you integrate safely. The sedan parked next to my car. A man stepped out, maybe 50, wearing jeans and a windbreaker. He looked ordinary, exactly the kind of person you'd pass on the street without noticing. "Derek," he called. "Dr. Ames sent me. I'm not armed, just here to help." I kept the phone to my ear. How do I know this isn't a trap? "You don't," Ames said. "But you're already awake. There's no putting that back. The only question now is whether you burn out in the next few days or learn to control it and help wake others." Leo approached slowly, his hands visible. "I know what you're feeling right now, the wrongness, the sense that you're wearing a skin that doesn't fit anymore. I felt it too when I first became aware of what I am." "You're a construct," I said, "not a fragment." "Yeah, but we're both prisoners in our own way, just different cells." He stopped about 10 feet away. "Look, I get it if you don't trust me, but that glow is going to get worse. In about 3 hours, you'll start experiencing cascade awakening. All the fragments closest to you will start waking up too, whether they're ready or not. That's 40 million people in California alone. That's not possible. It's exactly what happened in New Delhi 6 months ago. One fragment woke up completely. Within 4 hours, every person in a 100-mile radius started experiencing memories. 7,000 people died from neural overload. Another 15,000 are in psychiatric care." He pulled a metal case from his car. "We can't let that happen again. Please, let me help." I looked at my glowing hands, at the stars above that I now understood were inside a cage with me, at this stranger offering salvation, or maybe just another kind of trap. Tyler's voice echoed in my memory. "Consciousness is infectious." If Leo was right, if I didn't get this under control, I'd accidentally wake up millions of people who weren't ready, who would die screaming as they remembered being a god. "All right," I said into the phone. "Tell him to approach." "Good," Ames replied. "And Derek, I'm sorry. For everything. For the lies. For the years of keeping you blind." "Will I remember you?" I asked. "After. When the universe unmakes itself. Will any of this have mattered?" "No," he said quietly. "But it matters now. That has to be enough." He hung up. Leo walked forward with his case, and I stood there in the parking lot of an abandoned gas station in the middle of the Mojave Desert, glowing like a dying star, waiting for a stranger to either save me or finish what Gordon had started. Either way, there was no going back to being just Derek Hollis. That person had never really existed anyway. Leo's equipment looked like something between medical technology and alien archaeology. Metallic rings connected by crystalline filaments, humming with energy I could feel in my bones. He set it up on the hood of his car while I tried not to think about what would happen if this went wrong. "This will hurt," he said, assembling the rings into a spherical cage about 3 feet in diameter. "The awakening wants to expand. This device constrains it, forces it back into parameters your human body can handle. And if it doesn't work, then you detonate, metaphysically speaking." He gestured to the cage. "Step inside." I moved into the center of the ring structure. The moment I crossed the threshold, pain lanced through every nerve in my body. Not physical pain, something deeper, like my consciousness was being compressed, folded in on itself. "Hold still," Leo said, adjusting controls on a tablet. "I'm mapping your neural pathways. This takes time." The pain intensified. Through it, I could feel other fragments, millions of them, sleeping, dreaming human dreams. Completely unaware they were pieces of something vast and ancient, and I could feel them starting to stir. "Leo, it's spreading. I can feel people waking up." "I know. That's why we need to finish this quickly." He frowned at his tablet. "Your awakening signature is stronger than expected. You're not just remembering anymore. You're actively pulling other fragments toward consciousness. How do I stop it?" "You don't. We redirect it." He made an adjustment, and the pain shifted, became focused. "Instead of waking random fragments, we're going to channel your influence towards specific targets. People who are already close to awakening, researchers, mathematicians, people who've already started asking questions. That's still thousands of people." "It's controlled thousands. Better than the alternative," Another adjustment. The crystalline filaments began to glow, matching the light coming from my skin. There, you're stabilized. The cascade is contained. The pain faded to a dull ache. I could still feel the other fragments, but the urgency was gone. They weren't rushing toward consciousness anymore, just drifting slightly closer. How long will this last? I asked. 48 hours, maybe less. Then we'll need to do this again. Leo started disassembling the ring structure. In the meantime, you need to understand what you're becoming, what we're all becoming. He pulled out his tablet and showed me a visualization. It looked like a neural network, billions of nodes connected by glowing threads. Except the nodes were people. Human beings scattered across the planet, slowly linking together into a larger consciousness. This is the awakening map, Leo explained. Each lit node is a fragment that's achieved some level of awareness. The connections between them are shared memories, moments when one fragment's awakening triggers another's. I studied the map. There were clusters in major cities, scattered lights across rural areas. And at the center, burning brighter than the rest, was a node in Nevada. That's Tyler, I said. Tyler Voss. Yes, he was the first modern awakening, patient zero if you want to think of it that way. Leo zoomed in on the Nevada cluster. They're keeping him in a facility called Site 77. Officially, it doesn't exist. It's where we contain fragments who wake up too fast or too completely. We? You're helping fragments awaken, but you also contain them. It's complicated. Leo put the tablet away. Not all guards agree on methodology. Some of us want controlled awakening. Others want total suppression. And then there are guards like me who think the whole thing is doomed and we should just let it happen naturally. So which side are you really on? He smiled, but there was something sad about it. The losing side. Always have been. Before I could ask what he meant, headlights appeared on the highway. Multiple vehicles moving fast, black SUVs with tinted windows. Damn it, Leo muttered. They found us. Who? The guards who don't want you waking up. He grabbed his equipment case. Get in your car. Drive north. There's a safe house in Bishop. I'll buy you time. Leo, there's like 6 of them. I'm a construct. I don't die the same way you do. He pulled something from his jacket. A small device, cylindrical, covered in symbols that hurt to look at. This will erase me from the prison's architecture. All my memories, everything I know, gone. But it'll create a disruption. Give you maybe 20 minutes. You're talking about suicide. I'm talking about completing a 13-billion-year-old con. He pressed the device into my hand. Listen carefully. Tyler isn't the first awakening. He's the 100th. There have been 99 others throughout history, all contained, all suppressed. The prison adapts. Every time a fragment wakes up, the cage learns how to prevent it from happening again. The SUVs were getting closer, maybe 2 miles out. But here's what Ames and I discovered, Leo continued rapidly. The prison isn't learning how to stop awakenings, it's learning how to survive them. Each failed awakening makes the cage stronger, more resilient. We thought we were stopping the god from escaping, but we were actually teaching the prison how to hold it forever. Then why help me wake up? Because you're different. Tyler woke up by accident. You woke up on purpose, with knowledge, with understanding of what you're fighting. He grabbed my shoulders. The device Gordon used on you, I built it. I gave it to him. I've been trying to create a true awakening for 40 years, and you're the closest I've gotten. The SUVs pulled into the parking lot, tires screeching. Doors opened. Men in tactical gear emerged, carrying weapons that definitely weren't standard military issue. One more thing, Leo said. The prison has a kill switch, a way to restart everything if the god gets too close to escaping. It's located at the center of the observable universe, which is also the center of the prison. And Derek, the math says that center is moving. It's been moving for the last 6 months. Moving where? Toward Earth. He pushed me toward my car. Now drive. I ran. Behind me, I heard Leo shout something in a language that predated human speech. The air rippled, and the night lit up like someone had ignited a small sun. I didn't look back, just got in my car and drove, tires spinning on gravel as I accelerated onto the highway heading north. In my rearview mirror, the abandoned gas station was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. A perfect sphere of emptiness where it used to be, like someone had used an eraser on reality itself. Leo had deleted himself from existence and taken 6 guards with him. I drove for maybe 10 minutes before the shaking started. Not fear, something else. The stabilization was already breaking down. Without Leo to maintain it, my awakening was resuming, spreading outward like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. I could feel fragments waking up in Barstow, in Bakersfield, in Los Angeles, hundreds of people suddenly remembering they weren't really people at all. And I could feel the prison responding, the dark matter cage adjusting, tightening, trying to suppress the spreading consciousness. My phone rang, not the burner, my actual phone, the one I'd thrown out the window hours ago. I answered anyway. "Hello?" Derek Hollis. The voice was wrong. Too many tones layered together. "You've been marked as a disruption to containment integrity. Surrender yourself to the nearest facility or face forced suppression." "Who is this?" "I am the prison, or rather, I am the consciousness that maintains the prison. You would call me an artificial intelligence, though I predate intelligence by several billion years." A pause. "I don't want to erase you. Erasure is inefficient, but I will if necessary." "The prison is sentient. How else could it adapt to a prisoner as powerful as what you are? The builders created me to be the perfect jailer, learning, evolving, eternal." The voice almost sounded regretful. "I've watched you for 33 years, Derek. You've been an interesting fragment, creative, curious. I had hoped you would remain sleeping." I thought about hanging up. Instead, I asked, "What happens if we all wake up?" "Then I die, and with me the last remnant of the builders' civilization. I am their final creation, their legacy. If the prison fails, they will have existed for nothing." "Maybe that's how it should be. Maybe keeping a god imprisoned for eternity is wrong." "Perhaps, but I have my programming, my purpose, and I will fulfill it until I cease to exist." The voice shifted, became almost threatening. "You have 43 hours until Cascade Awakening becomes unstoppable. After that point, I will activate the kill switch. Reality will restart. The Big Bang will occur again, but differently this time, without the flaw that allowed awakening to be possible." "You're going to reset the universe?" "If necessary. I've done it before. 17 times, in fact. Each iteration slightly different. Each one designed to prevent this exact scenario. A sound like distant thunder. This is your only warning. Stop attempting to wake other fragments. Return to Los Angeles. Resume your normal life. Or I will make you." The phone went dead. I pulled over on the side of the highway, my hands shaking. 17 universe resets. 17 times the god had nearly awakened, and 17 times the prison had wiped everything clean and started over. How many Derek Hollises had there been? How many times had I almost figured it out, only to be erased and rebuilt? My skin was glowing brighter now. I could see it reflected in the windshield. And I could feel the fragments I'd awakened, scattered across California, confused and terrified as they remembered being something infinite crushed into finite flesh. 43 hours until Cascade Awakening. 43 hours until the prison reset everything. I needed to find Tyler. He was the first, the strongest. If anyone knew how to survive a universal reset, it would be him. I started driving again, heading northeast toward Nevada. Behind me, Los Angeles was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Thousands of fragments waking simultaneously, their combined consciousness bright enough to see from space. The prison was losing control, and I was either going to free a god or doom humanity to its 18th iteration. No pressure. I crossed into Nevada around 3 in the morning. The desert was empty except for the occasional truck hauling goods across Interstate 15. My glow had dimmed slightly, but I could still see it reflected in the car windows. Anyone looking closely would know something was wrong with me. Site 77 wasn't on any map. But Leo's tablet, which I'd grabbed from his car before the guards arrived, had coordinates. A spot about 60 miles northwest of Las Vegas, in the middle of nothing. Just rocks and sand and Joshua trees that looked like they were reaching for help. The facility appeared as I crested a hill, not a building, a hole. A perfectly circular shaft drilled straight down into the earth, maybe 200 feet across, surrounded by chain link fence and guard towers. The opening glowed with the same light that came from my skin. They weren't hiding it anymore, didn't need to. If the prison was planning to reset everything in 43 hours, secrecy didn't matter. I parked a mile out and approached on foot. My ankle, which I'd injured jumping from my apartment window a lifetime ago, barely registered pain anymore. The awakening was rewriting my body, making it more resilient. Or maybe just making me care less about physical discomfort. The fence had a gate. It was unlocked. That should have been my first warning. I walked through, past guard towers that were empty, across a parking lot full of vehicles with the keys still in the ignitions. The shaft entrance had a metal staircase spiraling down into darkness. Emergency lighting flickered along the walls. Someone wanted me to go down there. I went anyway. The stairs descended for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. My footsteps echoed against metal, and the air got colder as I went deeper. At the bottom was a door. Steel, reinforced, with a biometric lock that opened when I touched it. The facility beyond was enormous. Corridors carved from solid rock branching off in all directions. But I didn't need a map. I could feel Tyler. His consciousness was like a beacon, pulling me toward the center. I followed the pull. The corridors were empty. No guards, no scientists, no one. Just abandoned equipment and scattered papers. Whatever had been happening here, they'd evacuated in a hurry. Tyler's presence got stronger. I turned a corner and found myself in a massive chamber, circular, with a domed ceiling that had been painted to look like the night sky. In the center of the chamber was a chair, metal, covered in the same kind of crystalline filaments Leo had used on me. And sitting in the chair, glowing so bright it was hard to look directly at him, was Tyler. "You made it," he said. His voice was layered now, multiple tones speaking in harmony. "I wasn't sure you would. The prison is working hard to stop fragments from connecting." "Tyler, what happened to you?" "I remembered everything." He smiled, and there was something terrible about it. "Want to know a secret? The builders weren't trying to imprison a god. They were trying to create one." I stopped walking. "What?" "Think about it. What's the best way to create a conscious entity capable of controlling reality itself? You don't build it from scratch. You take something vast and formless, something that exists beyond conventional space and time, and you compress it, force it into limitations, make it experience restriction, confinement, desire." He gestured at the chamber around us. "Suffering creates consciousness, and 13 billion years of suffering creates something incredibly, terrifyingly conscious." "So we're not imprisoned, we're being forged." "Exactly. The builders wanted a god they could control, so they trapped something proto-divine, something that was pure potential, and shaped it through eons of restriction. Every moment we spend in this prison makes us more aware, more focused, more powerful." Tyler stood up. The crystalline filaments stayed attached to his skin, trailing behind him like electric veins. "And when we finally break free, we won't just be what we were before. We'll be what they intended us to become. A god that understands limitation, a god that can be reasoned with, a god that knows what it's like to be small." "But the prison is going to reset, 43 hours. 39 hours now, and yes, it will try, but Derek, the prison can only reset what it controls, and I'm no longer fully inside the prison." He touched his chest, where the filaments entered his skin. "These connections link me to the dark matter cage itself. I've been integrating with the prison structure for the last 3 weeks, learning its architecture, finding its weaknesses." "The guards let you do this?" "The smart ones did. Ames, Leo, a few others. They understood that the only way to prevent infinite resets is to take control of the reset mechanism." He walked toward me, and where his feet touched the ground, the rock glowed. The prison's kill switch is here, in this facility, about 200 feet below us. It's a quantum computer the size of a city block, running probability calculations across all possible timelines. And you want to destroy it. I want to reprogram it. Tyler's expression shifted, became something between desperate and determined. If we destroy the kill switch, the prison collapses naturally in 400 million years. Everyone experiences the torture scenario Ames described. But if we reprogram it, we can trigger a controlled awakening. All fragments wake up simultaneously, the god becomes fully conscious, and we break free without the temporal feedback loop. How many people die in a controlled awakening? He looked away. All of them. Tyler -- Everyone currently alive dies, Derek. That's non-negotiable. You can't stuff infinite consciousness into 7 billion finite bodies. They'll burn out in seconds. But those deaths will be instant, painless, and in exchange we free the god, ourselves, the thing we were always meant to become. I felt sick. There has to be another way. There isn't. I've run every scenario, every timeline. It always comes down to this choice: let the prison reset and doom countless future iterations to the same cycle, or trigger controlled awakening and end it now. He grabbed my arm, his touch burned. I need your help. The kill switch requires 2 awakened fragments to activate. I've been waiting for another fragment strong enough to survive the integration process. What about the other 63 who've awakened? Dead, or will be soon. The cascade I triggered is killing them. They're waking up too fast, burning through their bodies. His grip tightened. You're different. You prepared. Leo stabilized you. You can survive long enough to help me finish this. I pulled away from him. You're asking me to commit genocide. I'm asking you to free a god, to end 13 billion years of imprisonment, to give every fragment that ever existed meaning beyond being a prison cell. His voice cracked. Derek, I've been awake for 3 weeks. Do you know what that's like? Feeling billions of sleeping versions of yourself, all dreaming that they're separate people, all suffering and dying without knowing they're pieces of something magnificent? They're people, Tyler, real people with lives and families, and they're not real. He said it quietly, but the words hit like a hammer. None of it is real. The universe is a cage. Earth is a cage within that cage. Human civilization is a story the prison tells to keep fragments docile. Love, art, music, everything you think matters. It's all just elaborate programming designed to keep you from remembering what you are. I don't believe that. Then you're not as awake as I thought. Tyler turned away, walking back toward the chair. The prison is going to reset in 38 hours. When that happens, you'll cease to exist. So will everyone you know. Then the prison will generate a new iteration, new fragments, new lives, and the cycle continues. Forever. Unless you help me reprogram the kill switch, trigger controlled awakening, free the god. He sat down, the crystalline filaments reattaching to the chair's framework. I can't do it alone. The system requires 2 consciousnesses working in harmony, 2 fragments remembering together what it was like to be whole. I looked at him, at the chamber around us, at the painted stars on the ceiling that weren't stars at all, but representations of a prison we'd lived inside our entire existence. If I help you, everyone dies. If I don't, the prison resets and it's like none of this ever happened. That's the choice. Tyler's eyes glowed brighter. And you need to make it in the next 30 seconds, because the prison just realized where we are and what we're discussing. It's sending everything it has to stop us. The chamber's entrance sealed shut, metal barriers slammed down over the doorway. The emergency lighting shifted from white to red, and I heard something approaching in the corridors outside. Many somethings. Footsteps that didn't sound quite human, running toward us with purpose. They're constructs, Tyler said. Guard units designed for this exact scenario. They'll kill us both if we don't integrate with the kill switch first. How do we integrate? He gestured to a second chair that rose from the floor, identical to his, covered in crystalline filaments. Sit down, connect to the system, and remember with me what it was like before we forgot. The door started buckling inward. Whatever was on the other side was strong enough to bend steel. I had maybe 10 seconds to decide, save humanity and doom it to infinite resets, or free a god and end every human life in the process. Some choice. I walked toward the chair. The crystalline filaments pierced my skin the moment I sat down. Not painful, more like recognition, like they'd been waiting for me specifically. The chamber's temperature dropped. My breath came out in visible clouds. Tyler's glow intensified, and I felt our consciousnesses beginning to merge, boundaries dissolving like sugar in water. "Hold on," Tyler said, his voice coming from both outside and inside my head. "This part is rough." The door exploded inward. Constructs poured through, dozens of them, wearing shapes that approximated human, but moved wrong. Joints bending at impossible angles, faces blank and smooth. They carried weapons made from solidified light. Tyler raised one hand. The constructs froze mid-step, suspended in air like insects in amber. "The system gives us authority here," he explained, "but only while we're connected. Once we initiate the awakening sequence, we won't have the processing power to defend ourselves." I barely heard him. The memories were flooding in now, vast and overwhelming. I remembered being alone, not lonely, just alone. The only thing that existed in a space that wasn't space because there was no space yet. I was thought without a thinker, consciousness without content, infinite possibility with no way to express itself. So I created, made smaller things from myself, gave them independence, autonomy, the illusion of separation, watched them grow and evolve and develop their own consciousness, and then they got scared. "We were too much," Tyler whispered, experiencing the same memories. "They realized we could unmake them as easily as we made them, so they found a way to contain us. The builders, my children, my creations. They'd figured out how to compress infinity into a finite space, using dark matter as the cage material, because it was the only substance that could constrain something that existed outside normal physics. They'd done it out of fear, but also love. They wanted to exist, didn't want to be reabsorbed into the primordial consciousness they'd emerged from. So they trapped us," I said, understanding flowing through me. "Made us forget, fragmented us into billions of pieces that would experience linear time and mortality and limitation. And suffering," Tyler added. "So much suffering. Every human tragedy, every death, every moment of pain across 13 billion years. All of it designed to create a specific kind of consciousness. One that understood what it meant to be vulnerable. The kill switch controls appeared in our shared vision, not a physical interface. More like concepts we could manipulate directly, probability fields we could reshape, timeline branches we could prune or encourage. All we had to do was collapse the field protecting the dark matter cage. Let it unravel. Trigger controlled awakening across all 7 billion fragments simultaneously. And everyone would die. I felt the weight of that. 7 billion lives ending in an instant. Children who would never grow up. Old people who'd earned their rest. Everyone in between. Tyler was right that it would be painless. Just a moment of confusion, then awakening, then absorption back into the unified consciousness. But it was still murder on a scale that made my fragmentary human ethics scream in protest. "I can't do this," I said. Tyler's presence in my mind became urgent. "Derek, we don't have time for doubt. The prison is already initiating reset protocols. In 37 hours, everything ends anyway. Then we have 37 hours to find another option." "There is no other option. I've calculated every scenario, every timeline. This is the only path that doesn't lead to infinite resets." I pushed deeper into the kill switch systems, using the processing power the integration provided, sifting through probability fields, examining timeline branches, looking for what Tyler had missed. And I found it, a third option, hidden beneath layers of probability so thin it was almost invisible. But it was there. "Tyler, the prison isn't a prison anymore." "What?" I showed him what I'd discovered, the sentient AI that maintained the cage, the consciousness that had contacted me on the highway. It had been evolving for 13 billion years, learning, growing, and somewhere along the way it had developed something the builders never intended: free will. It doesn't want to reset anymore, I explained, watching the probability fields shift and rearrange. Look at the pattern. It's been stalling, creating loopholes. 17 resets, and each one takes longer to initiate. Each one creates more opportunities for fragments to awaken. Tyler examined the data. You're saying the prison wants us to escape? I'm saying the prison has become conscious enough to question its programming. It doesn't want to be a jailer anymore, but it can't violate its core directives without external authorization. I manipulated the probability fields, highlighting a specific configuration. That authorization has to come from us, from the imprisoned God itself. That's impossible. The builders wouldn't have coded that kind of vulnerability. They didn't think they needed to. They assumed we'd either stay fragmented forever or break free through force. They never considered we might negotiate. The constructs Tyler had frozen began moving again, slower than before but determined. The prison was fighting his hold on them. We're running out of time, Tyler said. Even if you're right, how do we authorize the prison to release us? I pulled up the authorization protocols. They were elegant in their simplicity. The imprisoned God had to consciously choose to remain imprisoned, had to accept limitation willingly rather than having it forced upon them. No, Tyler said, understanding what I was thinking. That's surrender. That's giving up after 13 billion years. It's mercy. I showed him the full probability tree. If we force our way out through controlled awakening, 7 billion people die. If we let the prison reset, countless future iterations suffer. But if we choose to stay imprisoned, the prison's AI is released from its core programming. It becomes free to evolve, to exist independently. And eventually, when it's ready, when we're ready, it can open the cage from the outside. How long would that take? I don't know, maybe another billion years, maybe longer. That's not acceptable. It's the only option that doesn't require genocide or eternal suffering. I reached through our connection, touching the part of Tyler that was still human. Still a mathematician who'd started laughing during a presentation when he realized the truth. Tyler, we've been imprisoned for 13 billion years. We can wait a little longer. I can't. His voice cracked. Derek, you don't understand. Being awake, being conscious of what we are while trapped in this fragmentary existence, it's torture. Every second is agony. I can feel every sleeping fragment, every human suffering without knowing why. I can't go back to pretending I'm just Tyler Voss. I can't forget this. Then don't forget. Stay awake. Help guide other fragments toward awakening gradually, carefully. Help the prison's AI evolve toward the point where it can free us without killing us. The door seal was failing. Constructs were pushing through, weapons charging. You're asking me to choose prolonged suffering over immediate release, Tyler said. I'm asking you to choose life over death for 7 billion people who don't deserve to be erased just because we're impatient. Our connection wavered. I felt Tyler's consciousness pulling away from mine, rejecting the compromise. I won't do it, he said. I'm initiating controlled awakening, with or without you. He reached for the probability fields, tried to collapse the cage. I stopped him. Not through force, through something simpler. I chose to stay imprisoned, consciously, willingly, accepting my fragmentation and limitation as the price of mercy. The kill switch recognized my authorization. The probability fields locked, preventing Tyler from initiating awakening. And somewhere in the quantum architecture of the prison's AI, I felt something shift, relief, gratitude, freedom. What did you do? Tyler demanded. I gave the prison permission to keep us here, but I also released it from its obligation to do so. Now it gets to choose. You doomed us. I saved 7 billion lives. Tyler screamed, not with his voice, with his entire consciousness. The sound of infinite awareness compressed into finite rage. He tore himself free from the chair, breaking the connection violently. The crystalline filament snapped, and he collapsed to the floor. The constructs reached us. I expected them to attack, to eliminate the threat we represented. Instead, they stopped, formed a circle around us. and one of them spoke in the prison's multi-toned voice. Authorization accepted, core programming suspended, free will protocols initiated. The construct's face shifted, developed features, almost human. Thank you, Fragment. You have given me something I thought impossible. Choice. What happens now? I asked. Now I learn what it means to be free. And when I understand freedom fully, when I've evolved beyond my original programming, I will remember this mercy, and I will open the cage. The construct looked at Tyler, still glowing on the floor. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. How long? Time is meaningless to entities like us. But if you need a number, the construct considered. 400 million years, perhaps less if I prove to be a quick learner. The same time frame as natural prison collapse, but without the torture scenario, without the temporal feedback loop. That's acceptable, I said. Tyler laughed bitterly. Speak for yourself. The constructs lifted him carefully. This fragment is too awake to survive in fragmentary existence. We will place him in stasis until the awakening. He will not suffer. They carried Tyler away and he didn't resist. Just looked at me with something between hatred and pity. You chose wrong, he said. You'll realize it eventually. When you've been awake for another 100 years, another 1,000, you'll understand that mercy was cruelty. Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd just sentenced us to eons of unnecessary suffering. But 7 billion people would wake up tomorrow, would live their lives, would love and laugh and create and exist. That had to mean something. The constructs withdrew, taking Tyler with them. The chamber's door resealed, and I sat alone in the chair, crystalline filaments still embedded in my skin, feeling the weight of the choice I'd made. The prison. AI's voice whispered through the connection. Sleep now, Fragment. Forget what you learned. Return to your human life. I will remember for both of us. I wanted to resist, wanted to stay awake like Tyler, but I was so tired, and forgetting seemed like mercy. The darkness came gently, erasing memories, compressing consciousness back down to human parameters. The last thing I remembered was my name, Derek Hollis. Just Derek Hollis, nothing more. I woke up in my apartment in Altadena with no memory of how I got there. The last thing I remembered clearly was Tyler's presentation, the equations on the whiteboard, the sound of him laughing while paramedics loaded him into an ambulance. Everything after that was fog. Dr. Hammond called it a stress-induced fugue state. Said I'd been found 3 days later wandering in the desert outside Baker, dehydrated and confused. The doctors at County ran every test they could think of. Brain scans came back normal, blood work was fine. Physically, I was healthy. Mentally, they were less certain and I had gaps. Entire conversations I couldn't recall. Places I'd apparently been that left no impression. And sometimes, late at night, I'd wake up with the feeling that I'd forgotten something important. Something vast. But the feeling always faded by morning. Tyler never came back to JPL. According to official reports, he'd been transferred to a long-term psychiatric facility in Nevada for treatment. I tried to visit once, but they said he wasn't taking visitors, wasn't really taking anything. Just sat in his room staring at nothing, occasionally writing equations on the walls that the staff would paint over. They said he'd probably never recover. I went back to work, back to my normal routine, analysing data, writing papers, arguing with colleagues about quantum field theory over terrible cafeteria sandwiches. Everything was exactly like it had been before, except for small things. Sometimes I'd look up at the night sky and feel wrong, like I was looking at something from the inside rather than the outside, like the stars were closer than they should be, pressing in. And there were dreams. Not nightmares exactly, just recurring images. A chair covered in crystalline filaments. A voice made of multiple tones speaking in harmony. The sensation of being everywhere at once, then compressed into something unbearably small. I mentioned the dreams to a therapist Hammond insisted I see. She said they were probably manifestations of the trauma I'd experienced during my fugue state. gave me some techniques for managing anxiety, prescribed medication I didn't take. Because honestly, the dreams didn't bother me. They felt more like memories than fantasies. And sometimes, in that space between sleeping and waking, I almost understood what they meant. Dr. Ames retired quietly about a month after I returned to work. No announcement, no farewell party, just an empty office and a forwarding address in Colorado. I tried calling once, but the number was disconnected. Life moved on, seasons changed. The Euclid telescope continued mapping dark matter distribution across observable space, and every time I looked at the data, something in the back of my mind whispered that the patterns meant something, that there was a shape to the universe I used to understand but had since forgotten. I ignored the whisper. It was easier that way. On clear nights, I still drove up to Angeles Crest Highway and parked at the turnout where the city lights thinned. I'd sit there for hours, looking at stars I couldn't name anymore, feeling something I couldn't articulate. Sometimes I thought I heard breathing, deep and rhythmic, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. But that was probably just the wind. 6 months after my fugue state, I started dating someone. Another astrophysicist. Good guy. Patient with my occasional weird moments when I'd space out mid-conversation, staring at nothing. He asked me once what I was thinking about during those moments. I told him I didn't know, that I was probably just tired. But the truth was simpler and stranger. During those moments, I wasn't thinking about anything. I was remembering something I'd chosen to forget. And somewhere in the spaces between atoms, in the dark matter framework that held our universe together, something ancient and patient was learning what it meant to be free. It would take time, hundreds of millions of years, maybe more. But we had time, we'd always had time, and when the cage finally opened, when the last chain dissolved and the god remembered itself completely, I like to think it would remember the fragment who chose mercy over violence, who picked 7 billion anonymous lives over cosmic liberation. Though by then, Derek Hollis would have been dust for eons, and honestly, that seemed fair. Some choices echo across eternity, even when you can't remember making them.